In this part in the territory video series, we're going to talk about county level territories. County level territories are great because they're a little bit bigger than zip codes in most cases. And so they allow you to still granularly, but more broadly define your territories. And they're also a quite common way that we find that businesses distribute territories and sales areas and service areas within our customer base. And so there are a couple special considerations when using FIPS codes, and it kind of starts with an understanding of what a FIPS code is. MetaLocator provides county level territory features only in the United States. So we only support county level territories for US counties. And so that's an important concept. But the other important thing is to understand what a FIPS code is and what it defines and what its relationship is to zip codes and just geography in general. So let's go back to that unitedstateszipcodes.org, and I want to show you the zip codes that are within Milwaukee County. And so I can see here that there's actually quite a few. It looks like 25 zip codes inside just that one Milwaukee County. The counties in the United States are defined by what's called a FIPS code, FIPS. I actually forget what that stands for, but FIPS codes look a lot like zip codes. They're 5-digit numbers, and they actually typically end up being somewhat similar to the zip codes that they cover. But I want to be clear that MetaLocator expects the complete FIPS code. Sometimes FIPS codes are referred to in two parts. There's state level code, which might be something like 5.3 or 5.1 for Wisconsin, and then the county level code is like a 3-digit. So sometimes you'll see a FIPS code expressed as like 53-122, but MetaLocator expects it as a single 5-digit number when it's added to the data. And so before we actually start entering some FIPS codes, one of the special considerations that you need to consider when you are going to be using territories is that when you geocode the data that you have, there's a special option in MetaLocator that says include county and neighborhood data. That checkbox will only appear if a territory county field has been created. The reason that that is different and extra is because it actually costs us a lot more to go and fetch county data for individual locations, and so that's why it's an option. So if you have already geocoded your data and you had not checked this box, or maybe that box wasn't available because you didn't have a county territory, you're going to want to go in and re-geocode your data to make sure that county and neighborhood data comes along with that geocoding process. So make sure that box is checked, go to locations, all records, and re-geocode your data if you didn't include county and neighborhood data when you first did it. So that's an important first step to make sure that your data is properly geocoded with the required information to support the search that we're going to build. The next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of FIPS data to a couple example locations, and also pick on the sample location 1 again. I'll go in here and I'm going to go ahead and remove some of the other territory data that we've added just so that we are perfectly clear. And now we have this new territory county list of data, or new territory county field. And so what I'm going to do is add a couple FIPS codes to this that correspond again to southeastern Wisconsin. And so I'm using this map that I found that allows me to pick a particular area on the map, and then it shows me the FIPS code. Now notice that that looks a little bit like a zip code, so just be careful that you know the difference in what you're looking at. And so that southeastern Wisconsin FIPS code was 55079, and then I'm also going to pick another one just to the west of it, 55133. And so again, this could continue on for quite some way in order to specify multiple counties. And again, within those county codes, we have what could be quite a few zip codes. So the nice thing about county codes in the United States is it reduces the amount of data that I have to deal with. And some of these numbers are just frankly a little bit easier to add and manage since they cover larger areas. But of course that comes back to how you define your territories and how you divide up access. So I'm going to go ahead and save that location. And just like the other examples, now that we've got a couple counties in there, a couple territories defined, we're going to switch over to the interface and perform a few tests. Now, just like on the geocoding side, when somebody performs a search in MetaLocator, one of the cool things that we do is we geocode whatever they type in on the fly. And in order to determine where that term is, because that term could be a zip code, it could be the name of a city, and it could also be the a home address or something like that. And so when that geocoding occurs, just like in the back end, we need to capture the county and neighborhood while doing that geocoding. And so if you are doing county level territories, under territory settings, you have to enable this get county and territory while geocoding feature. So go ahead and turn that on. The other thing that we'll need to do, now that we've performed already a bunch of searches that may have not had the geocoding of country and neighborhood enabled, we want to clear any search cache that may have been stored by our geocoder. So under geocoder, under this little ellipsis menu, clear the search cache out. And what that will do is make sure that anytime anybody performs a search on the interface, that their search term will be geocoded fresh. Geocoding costs money, and so there are quotas associated with performing geocodes, and that's why we save that. Relatively speaking, the quotas within MetaLocator are quite generous, so you shouldn't worry about clearing out geocode cache. But it's essential for this particular step. So now that we have a fresh start with respect to geocoding the search, and we have our data properly geocoded to include county and neighborhood data, we can go to the interface and we should be able to perform some searches that should match on our county level territories. Let's go back to our United States zip codes.org and look for a couple examples. This highlighted red area was the, I think it was the second FIPS code I entered. And then there was one just to the left of it that I also entered just to the west of it. So let's try 53151. That's a zip code, right? That's what people typically search for. 53151. It's worth mentioning that people don't search locators by FIPS code, right? So remember that now you're the end user, you probably don't even know your FIPS code, right? So you're not searching for FIPS codes here, you're searching for zip codes that overlap with the FIPS code territories that you've defined. So as we expect here, we can see sample location 1 and we can see sample location 2. We had added that FIPS code for that zip code, 53151. And so that all seems to be working just fine, and we could now go on to expand our territories. Before we move on, I want to mention that zip codes and FIPS codes do not have a one-to-one relationship. That means that not every zip code is contained in one FIPS code. Now, this isn't a huge problem, but there are some extreme examples, like Leeds County, Alabama, for example, contains zip codes that are in multiple. There's one zip code 35094 that actually overlaps 3 counties, and so it's important to understand that zip codes are not perfectly aligned or owned by one particular FIPS code. Hopefully I said that right, that one zip code is not perfectly aligned to one particular FIPS code. And so if you're ever curious which one MetaLocator will return, we provide a test tool in the back end of MetaLocator. So if you go to Tools, Geocoding Test Tool, you can do things like perform a search and see what the interior geocoding results are. So what you do is you type in a string, just like the customer would. In this case, let's look at that curious county in Alabama, 35094. We'll type in US and click go. And what that will do is will return for us all the details that are returned by the geocoder. Of course, the latitude and longitude, which represents the center of 35094, but then also the FIPS code, which in the United States county is administrative area level 1. So we can see the FIPS code is actually 01073 or Jefferson County. So that is, if you ever end up in a situation where you're wondering why a particular result is returned for a particular zip code, you can use this geocoding test tool to figure out, okay, this is the FIPS code. Now I can go into the territory definition and figure out, okay, is this the appropriate FIPS code for that result, and make adjustments as necessary. So that is the final note on zip codes and FIPS codes. And so those are the special considerations and hopefully a good overview of how to leverage FIPS codes for MetaLocator territories.